Okay.
Okay. As Tim would say, that little red light's burning, so I ring, I'm gonna go now.
Yep.
Okay, our lesson today is a continuation of Job. But I have this little story I like to start us off with to get you kind of relaxed. Some of us in here remember the times when we had doctors that made house calls. They'd come to your house. I can't really remember if I ever remember anybody coming to Grandpa's house or our house, anything or not. But
well, they did.
Yeah, they used to, right?
I say they did.
You were old enough to remember that.
I had one that came every day, Dr. Newcomb.
Yeah, Doc, I was so glad when I outgrew Dr. Newcomb, I didn't know what to do. But anyway, this is a little story about a doctor who made a house call. One day, a man took deathly ill. His wife called the doctor, and he came to the house. When he walked in, the wife told him that her husband was upstairs. He told her to wait downstairs. He went upstairs, and he was gone for a little while, and after a few minutes, he came back down. He asked for a screwdriver. She gave him one. He went back upstairs. Several minutes later, he came back down, asked for a can opener. She gave him that. He went back upstairs. Shortly after that, he came back and asked for a hammer and a saw. Well, finally, the worried wife couldn't stand it any longer and said, "Doctor, please tell me what's wrong with my husband." The doctor said, "I don't know yet. I can't get my bag open." So we might have a great deal of knowledge about a great many things, but if we don't know the right things, the right time, and on the right occasion, it really doesn't matter what we know.
It's true.
That we might be a doctor, could find out something, but if we don't know, then we don't know. All right, our lesson today is a continuation of Job. We've been studying Job all this month. As you know, Job, poor thing, I feel sorry for him. Every time I read a lesson about him, he just gets deeper and deeper. I'd say in trouble with the Lord, but he's not in trouble with the Lord. He's in trouble because he don't do what the devil wants him to do. And God is protecting him. If you remember in one of the lessons, he's lost all of his animals. Just everything he had, every animal, camel, horse, sheep, goats, everything he had, they all are gone. And if you remember, I believe it's the first lesson I taught, where one person was left to come and tell Job he had lost him. Then there came this big storm, blew down the house that his children were in. He lost all of his children. And then he had sores all on him. And he sat down in ashes and I meant to look it back up, what did he scrape his sores with? Was it a rock, glass? I can't think, but anyway, he scraped his sores and covered them with ashes. And I thought about, he didn't have, well, they didn't have stuff you put on sores and all that. We just take it in a little tube and mash it out and rub it on there.
Cortisone.
Yeah, cortisone, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't have that. And it must have itched. So he didn't have itch cream, so he used ashes.
With the charcoal. The charcoal would have its effect. Yeah.
And scraped his skin with it. Well, can you imagine if you were covered with sores, if you've been around anybody that had sores much, how bad they might smell? He had to be what I call stinking by then. But today we're going to pick up where his three main people that he trained and worked with. And as you've heard me say, I always look at sermons and read a bunch of sermons to get ideas as to how to interpret the scriptures. couldn't find no preacher that preached on Job 19. And I thought, I told John, I said, that's the reason Carolyn suggested if I had some, she would. But Job 19 was not a book in the Bible that people really preached on. But it's a good little thing. But Job said, expressed his deepest faith possible for a believer in his day, even in his despair. He proved how faithful a believer he was. And Job asks us, how long will you vex my soul and break me in pieces with words? Now, Bildad, am I pronouncing that right? Was one of his main leaders. And they just thought, you know, Job, you must have really sinned something bad for God to put this punishment on you. But God didn't put that punishment. He allowed the devil to do it, to test Job's faith. He says, if indeed I have erred, doth not my error remain within myself? I alone suffer for it. So he's saying here that if you have done something wrong, you're the one that pays for it. It's not somebody else's problem. You're the one. Well, the three men that were tearing Job to pieces with their accusations was supposed to be his friends. Well, Bildad he was one of the cruelest ones that talked to Job and put him down. And his cruel words were spoken by people who were supposed to be his friends, but yet cut at his heart, the things that they said and the way they treated him. And it left him wounded as if they had thrown a sword through his heart. And so 10 times he expressed to them, he says, it seems their attack would never end. And he mentioned this 10 times in Job 19, how viciously they were attacking his character. And Job said, if I have sinned, I myself will suffer for my sins. I don't need your pity or your reproach. He reminded them that you pay for your own sins. Yeah. That they would not be responsible for something that he did. And Job confessed that if God sent his friends like Bildad, then who would need any enemies? So he feared that there would be no justice in the end. And Bildad has spoken a great deal about the wicked being snared by his own sins. And now he was talking to Job without actually quoting Job's words. They'd shown Job no mercy. He reminded them that he was being punished by God for whatever it was that he had done wrong. Well, they couldn't think of what he had done wrong, but they were sure he must have some secret there. It was not their duty to add to Job's pain and suffering that he was going through. It appeared that they thought it would tear Job down if they could, and make them look better in the sight of the Lord. And I know you know sometimes that, say you did a little minor something and people never let you forget it. Mm-hmm. They keep tearing you down about it. And this is the way Job felt. You know, this was my sin. This was something I did wrong. This was something I had to straighten out. But yet Bildad and the other two companions never let Job forget. They always were accusing him of something that he had done wrong. They didn't know what, but they were sure he must have done something wrong in order for him to be punished like this. Well, Job said, I looked for some support and comfort from my kindred and my friends, but they were so astonished at the number and dreadfulness of my calamities, that they fled from me as a man accused of God. As for my neighbors who formerly much courted my acquaintances, they kept aloft from me, as if they had never known me. You remember Job was one of the richest men at that time. And as long as he was having all these parties, they didn't worry about COVID back then, but as long as he was having all these big gatherings and everything, the neighbors showed up, friends showed up, probably enemies showed up too. But now that he is suffering, we don't want to have nothing to do with Job now. Something's wrong here. And they just to stay away from Job. He was just bad news to them. But since early on in the book of Job, have not heard of anything of his family. It mentions him how he lost his children and things, but even his wife was not mentioned anymore. And she suggested that Job curse God and die and just get it over with. So she must have been a pretty pushy wife, I figure. So it appears that everyone had left him that could leave him. They possibly thought they might be punished along with Job if they stayed friends with him, if they continued to be close to him, they might get some of the same punishment he was going through. So, you know how it is. We do that today. Somebody that we kind of don't want to associate with, we don't. But sometimes that's the people that really need us the most. We need to be friendly to them. I have a new neighbor moved in about 2.5 miles down the road already, and I keep telling Johnny I'm going to stop by and see him. I haven't yet. I understand they got 2 children, and I thought, well, I'll stop and invite them to Bible school, but I never see anybody there. And when you're moving into a place, sometimes you kind of don't feel like it's the right timing to do this.
That comes mighty natural.
It's mighty natural to put it off.
I'm going to invite the couple that's living over there across the road from me in a few months.
No, these are the people that moved in Sally and P.G. Murphy's house.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know who they are. I understand they are from Nightdale. So, but like I say, it never looks like anybody's there. I'm gonna catch them one day.
The people living in the brick house where Emma Gray lived in got 2 small children. And they keep it looking mighty nice, but I try not to bother them.
and you know, sometimes we need to make that step forward. And I know I am a big talker, and I love to talk, but I feel like some people don't want to be bothered. But you never know if you don't make that step and try.
Because they'll tell you if they don't want to be bothered.
Mm-hmm.
What?
They'll tell you if they don't want to be bothered.
Somebody will, man.
Yeah, they will. Yeah.
So
They didn't used to.
And you know, you used to would cook a cake or cook something and take to them, but now you're afraid to do that. I hate to put all that in it and then pitch it out the door. So you just don't have, times are different, you know. But anyway, those who had come to Job's house for the great celebrations that he was having had left him. They didn't want to catch his illness, they called it. And a lot of times people who are sick today, we have a tendency to not visit. And it's hard for me to see someone suffering. That's a hard thing for me to face. I can send a card, I can make a phone call, but if I go, I'm just gonna sit there and cry. Your body's supposed to be 3/4 water. Mine's 99%, I think, when it comes to sadness. But even those that were in his house, the male and female servants and guards and things, looked on him and treated him as if they didn't know him. He says, I am an alien in their sight. Not only as an unknown, but an alien. As somebody that you know, if we had an alien on one of them spaceships landed over here in the churchyard,
I know how that feels.
now, and if you're out of it, right? You're entirely different, yes. So Job feels like he's an alien. He's not wanted. He's not loved.
I did too.
So
Still do.
we're gonna help you. We're gonna help you, Sarah. The only reason that the servants and maids had not left him was because Job was their master. So they felt like they had to stay there because they didn't want to lose their jobs. But they probably thought, like Job's friends, that Job was being punished by God for some sins that he had committed. But we know that this isn't so. He says, I have become so loathsome that my wife will not come near me, though I have caused her to do it by the dear memory of our children, those common pledges of our mutual love. So he felt like that here they were, they had these children that were grown, and all of a sudden they were all taken away, they were all killed, and he felt like this was something that he caused, and therefore his wife wouldn't have anything to do with him. But the general interpretation supposes that Job's breath, by reason of his sores and ulcers, was so offensive that his wife and others wouldn't come near him. And as I said at the beginning, you think about someone who is very sick, and I think about, if you have a sore on your body and it gets infected, how bad it smells. Just think about if your whole body is covered with sores and how rotten flesh really stinks. And I would think he couldn't eat or anything. And if he had ulcers, if you've ever had an ulcer, you know how bad that is. That, you really wouldn't want to get close to him. You wouldn't want to have anything to do with him. So this was saying that Job had extremely bad breath. And some of us have bad breath, even though we didn't have a disease. Yeah, body odor. Just typical body odor is bad enough. Right? He had lost the loving tenderness of his wife because of the odor and his disease. Everyone avoided him. All right, then he says, they whom I love are turned against me. So he says, even my intimate friends, the men of my council, which was Bildad and these other two men, who are familiar with my secret affairs. The inward friends were probably speaking of the friends that he had counseled, those three men. He had loved and trusted the three friends, and here they had attacked him verbally with their tongue, accusing him of that and lashing out at him. How many of you ever remember somebody turning against you? I mean, it happens. Yeah. And you can make amends for it and get over it. I don't know how many of you have heard the little song growing up, Nobody Loves Me.
Everybody hates me. I'm going to eat some worms.
Think I'll eat some worms.
I just know Jesus loves me.
Long, skinny ones, big, fat, juicy ones. Think I'll eat some worms.
I never heard that.
We used to sing it all the time.
I just know Jesus loves me.
Yeah. Well, when people, like at school when I taught and all, I'd have said, Miss McGee, they don't love me. They don't have nothing to do with me. I said, well, just go eat some worms then. Eat some long, fat, long, skinny ones and big, fat, juicy ones. I said, we used to say, think I'll eat some worms. Maybe somebody liked me then. So anyway, we never know, but when people turn against us, we don't know why sometimes, and sometimes we may know why. But stop and think about it a minute. Could we have gone through what Job went through?
No.
And still remain faithful to God?
No.
I would find it hard to do myself. It really would be. So when something happens, we ask, why, Lord? Why? The song, why me, Lord? And then sometimes I think about, why not me, Lord? Yeah. We become stronger, though, through our sufferings, I believe. We just have to pray and put our troubles in the Lord's hands. And when we are down and out and feel we can't go on, just think about Job and what all he went through, what he endured. And he remained faithful. He never gave up. He kept trusting in God. And that's what we have to do. He had faith in the Lord. How strong is our faith? Amen.